Hi everyone, and welcome back to the next diecast. For today's video, I'm going to be showing you some methods of gluing and repairing diecast model cars. This video will apply to diecast model cars of all different sizes and scales, and I'm going to show you some of the repairs I do with diecast model cars and what types of glue that I use. I'm also going to kind of show you some techniques and methods that I wouldn't use with gluing model cars, and also types of glues that I wouldn't use. So here's the three main types of glues that I use for gluing and repairing my model cars. I have a white glue here, and then a glue stick, and then crazy glue. Most cases for die-cast model car repairs, I use the crazy glue, mostly due to the fact that it's completely clear, and a lot of repairs that I do are very small scale, like for simple basic repairs for mirrors and like windshield and whatnot. You don't need like large amounts of glue for that. And crazy glue is much stronger than these other types of glue here. Glue sticks I wouldn't recommend using at all, except for certain cases which I'll cover later, and white glue only for certain types of materials and parts and everything. So I'm going to kind of get started here. So all these model cars you see here are cars that I've glued in some form or fashion. Not the whole car, I didn't glue every single piece back on or anything, but if a part fell off or whatnot, I use glue to put it back on. So these two in front of me here, I did mirror repairs on. Usually if you have a car that comes with a super loose side mirror, or a car that you had as a kid and the mirror either got pulled off or broken off, then a glue repair is the best way to put that mirror back on and get it back to kind of its former glory and whatnot. So for any mirror repairs, I often use this crazy glue that you see right here. It comes in a bottle with a cap on it, and in most cases, here it is here, out of the bottle. So what I'll do for repairing mirrors is I'll take a small bead of this glue and I'll put it on a toothpick. I would not recommend directly putting the glue from the bottle onto the mirror, or any surface for that matter, because you can't really get like an accurate amount of glue or an accurate like coverage area unless you do it with like a toothpick. So what I do is I take out the mirror. In most cases for Maisto models, the mirrors are put in with like these stubs and they can just kind of pull out if they're ever loose and you want to kind of glue it back in so it's actually secure. So I take a bead of glue, I put it on the toothpick, I rub the toothpick with glue on the mirror stub, and I insert the mirror back in its hole. And once I do that, I hold the mirror in place like this for about 5 minutes so the glue can harden, and then it's a rock solid attachment. It will never probably get loose again, so that's why I think crazy glue is the most reliable method for gluing your mirrors back on. In the case of this Welly Porsche back here, the mirror came super loose. It was like a loose tooth, it was so loose. So that was very easy to kind of pull out. So I did the same thing. I took the toothpick and I put some glue on it, and I rubbed the toothpick of glue on the mirror stub. I put the mirror back in place and I held it there. And you want to hold it because it might get crooked if you don't hold it, and then it'll glue dry crooked, and you don't really want that. So I held up the car in front of me like this, and I made sure that the mirrors were even, and then I held it in place, and then it was on nice and even after the glue dried. Now, in case you don't want to pull out your mirror in order to glue it back in if it's loose, you can actually glue it without taking it out. So what you do for that method is you do the same method I said with the toothpick and this crazy glue. You put a tiny amount of glue around the perimeter of the mirror attachment stub, and it dries clear, so in most cases you won't see it at all. And if you're able to bend the mirror back a tiny bit, and then if you can see some of the hole that it goes into, then you can put a tiny bit of glue in there. And it'll be enough that the mirror will not move, or it'll move very, very little. In a lot of cases for higher end models, you don't want to be pulling out the mirrors. Like in this one, I knew this one wasn't going to come out that easily, and this is a higher end model, so I didn't want to be, tearing it out or anything. So I did that method for that. And you want to avoid getting any glue on clear plastic parts at all costs, because it might cause something called fading or hazing or fogging up, or where the window glass or the window will fog up with like a kind of streak mark on it. And that won't look good, and there's no way of getting that repair out. So I would recommend covering your windows with, tape or something if you have it, or having the car on its side. And the toothpick method usually works for avoiding like sensitive areas like the plastic windows and whatnot. And I wouldn't recommend using white glue for mirror repairs or any small repairs like that, because it kind of clots up and it'll get like globs all over the car. And you can wipe it off, but it might leave like a residue behind, which isn't good. Another method repair I've done with this glue is this windshield right here on the Honda S2000. This had broken off when I was like 11 or 12, and I glued it back on with white glue. Wrong. That's not a good thing to do. Although it does its job, the white glue will not be as strong at all as crazy glue. Crazy glue really holds its strength, so if you glue anything with it, then it's going to be solid. This became loose after a year, so last week I just pulled it off. I had to dig out all the glue with like a screwdriver that was in like the engine well back here, so that's not really a good thing to do. This glue will not clot. It'll be like caulk. Like it'll be a nice firm attachment, and this windshield now does not move whatsoever. So for any repairs like that, I would recommend a clear glue like crazy glue. This also goes for antennas. This one, here's an example of a loose one back here. So this, you could easily just pull out, and then again, with your toothpick, you would just paint the glue a little bit on the attachment stub, put the antenna back in, hold it in place like this, then after a few minutes, it'll be nice and solid. I actually did glue this antenna back on here on this Ford Grand Torino, Talladega, and it's now nice and firm on there. These wipers will probably be next. They're very loose and bent. I'm gonna probably remove those, bend them back where they go, paint them silver, and then glue them back on. So this is probably my number one recommended glue for model car repairs. Be careful not to get it on your hands because it'll harden really quickly and you gotta scrub it off. So I would wear like maybe gloves or something when you're using that kind of glue. So the next glue I'm gonna go over is this glue stick here. The only method of repair that I use the glue stick for is for putting on mirror stickers. You can see for model car mirrors, they have kind of like a foily sticker to simulate like a glass mirror. A lot of times they'll come off over the years and you'll have to glue them back on. Anything that is a sticker, this is a good glue to use to put the sticker back on. This glue will make it all lumpy and it'll get all wet and stuff and it'll even like fade. That's not good for that. Super glue, I would say, is kind of unnecessary for gluing stickers back on because they're just stickers, they're, you know, paper and whatnot. So a glue stick is the best method for that. So for that, like here's a Corvette that has that foil on it. You would just peel off the mirror sticker. I highly recommend getting tweezers to do that. Peel it off, then put some of the glue stick glue on the back of the sticker. Put the sticker back on, and then use your finger or the tweezers to kind of hold it in place and make it nice and smooth. And then it should dry right away. You might have to re-glue it after a few years, but it's a good kind of long-term fix for it. That way, you know, it'll stop like falling off and everything. And same thing with gauge cluster stickers too. They fall off from time to time, so for those, same thing. Just get some tweezers, put some glue from the glue stick on the back of the sticker, and then put it back in place behind the steering wheel. In terms of white glue, I don't really recommend doing any model car repairs with white glue. If it's, I mean, it's really honestly, I would just honestly use it for paper and whatnot or for school projects. I used to use white glue a lot of times for model cars, but I realized that wasn't the most effective method of repair. If it's a model car you don't really care as much about, or you're not planning on keeping it for that long, it's like a good short-term fix, but if you want like a long-term fix with a stronger result, I recommend using the crazy glue. Here's some other cars I repaired with glue. Here's a 127 scale Jeep Wrangler that I got from a CVS. This entire frame came off and the pole was like split. So I took the super glue and I kind of glued it back in place. In this case, I held it down with my hand like that so the glue could harden, and now it's like perfect. So you can see because it kind of pops out of place like this frame here. And it works for metal to plastic attachments or even metal to metal attachments, that kind of glue. So really for any repair, especially on a smaller scale car like this, it's a good kind of use for. I also used the crazy glue on this 1936 Cord made by Franklin Mint. My grandfather actually got this for free from an antique shop. It had been in a fire, so all the paint was burned off and everything, so he repainted the whole car. This windshield I glued back on recently because his glue had dried off and hardened after 30 years. So I just took crazy glue and I put a little bead of it along the perimeter, and now it's back on nice and strong. And this is actually a metal windshield too, so you can. And this is metal to metal. So even for metal to metal repairs, the crazy glue works very, very well. And in terms of like getting new parts for model cars, like if something is completely broken. My recommendation would be to get a similar car off of eBay, even if it's like a beater, and then just buy that and then use either and then use it for parts, like get like a broken car and then use that one for parts, or just get a whole new car. Cheaper budget cars like this Mazda, or even Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars, you can just get like a second one of those because they're fairly cheap. But for higher end models, you're better off doing the repair yourself, so you save on money of getting a whole new model. But yeah, there's many different approaches that you can take depending on the severity of the repair and how common your model is and how, simple it is to put back together, or how simple the part is to put back on the car. So yeah, that's kind of my method I use for gluing model cars, and it's mostly mirrors, as you can probably tell, because that's really the only part of die-cast cars that's like vulnerable and gets pretty loose, because most cases the whole rest of the body of the car is going to be made out of metal. Convertibles are of course exceptions because the windshield is just usually plastic, whereas for these metal roofed coupes and everything, they have a nice firm roof. They don't have like a loose windshield or anything like that. So that pretty much covers it for the types of glue I use, what I use the glue for, and kind of the do's and don'ts of repairing these model cars. As always, feel free to comment down below with either questions on other techniques I might use or the techniques that I mentioned, or if you want to share the ways that you, or if you want to share the methods that you use to repair your own cars, then go right ahead and comment down below. As always, be sure to follow my Instagram page, Nick's Diecast page, and thanks for watching.